Mr. Chuck Tiller.
Hello, Americans, United States of America, not the USSA, which our friend Mr. Obama wants to turn us into. We're not going to have it. We're going to put an end to this come November. So it's just money. That's all. It's just money. That's money they're spending. Let's look at some of the money that they've been spending. And then we're going to get into what they're going for next. You already know what they're doing with health care as they reach into our pockets and take it away from us and laugh in our faces about it. So far, $700 billion has been put in for piggy bank bailouts. $787 billion for the American Recovery Act. $410 billion for the Omnibus Appropriation Act. $18 billion for the pig vaccination program. I'm not sure why that's there, but apparently the pigs need some vaccinations. But $18 billion? $82.8 billion for federal nutrition programs. $4 billion for cash for clunkers. We already know how that worked out. The health plan, well, I can't even put a number on that. They're not through with us. So they have put out numbers, but they're not through. Cap and trade, or the climate bill, is going to add another $100 billion to $200 billion a year. Another estimate says $366 billion a year. And Pelosi wants another stimulus to the tune of $6.6 billion. And last but not least, $18 billion to redesign the website that's supposed to help the American people see where all the stimulus money is going. $18 million just to redesign a website. We could get somebody in high school to do that. Far cheaper. It's just when you thought all of this spending wasn't enough to make you angry, there's a few places your representatives are spending your money during the hard times, and this is what we call pork. $2,192,000 by Senators Charles Schumer, Democrat, New York, Maurice Hennessy, Democrat, New York, then House Appropriator James Welch, and Representative Michael Arcuri, all of New York. They've put this money aside for the Center for Grape Genetics in Geneva. Well, I can see if they're like wine, this is probably what they need to do. Going to need some wine after this. Tom Harkins, Democrat of Iowa, $1.791 million, that's $1,791,000 for swine odor and manure management research in Ames. We're going to spend money on that. That's where your money is going. Now, just a real paltry $866,000 by Ben Nelson, Democrat of Nebraska. What is he spending that money on? Stable fly control in Lincoln. Wouldn't fly swatters be a little bit cheaper, you know? Now, here's one you're really going to love. $70,705,675 for 53 projects by Dianne Feinstein, Democrats, California. 35 projects for an additional $73 million on top of that. Part of that, $5 million for the San Francisco Bay restoration. They're going to be building low-income housing for the sea otters, you know. The list goes on and on and on about the spending, and it's not over. As the tax man comes today, the VAT man comes. VAT, the value-added tax. Now, just last week, White House economic advisor Paul Volcker said the United States ought to consider imposing a European-style value-added tax to get the deficit under control. He said at the end of the day, we need to raise taxes. We should raise taxes. That tax is essentially a national sales tax, which would be added to existing state sales taxes. Now, France's VAT is nearly 20%. So just imagine all of your recent purchases costing 20% more. Now, that's going to seem a little outrageous, but Obama's economic advisor doesn't think so. He says that a VAT tax was not a toxic idea today, as it has been in the past. Volcker was not suggesting that we replace the income tax with the VAT tax, but to add it on top of the income tax. Not replacing it, adding it on top. Evidently, Volcker wouldn't mind paying $7 a gallon for gas either, because he also recommended that we start taxing carbon too. Of course, we knew that was coming as well. Just like their love of socialized medicine, liberal politicians are drawn to the VAT like a moth to a flame. The reason is simple. If you're going to fundamentally change America, transform America into big government, European-style welfare state, you're going to need big European-style taxes. Last year, Speaker Nancy Pelosi told PBS's Charlie Rose, somewhere along the way, a value tax plays into this. I think it's fair to look at a value-added tax as well. Well, Ms. Pelosi, we think it's fair that we vote you out when your time comes. And by cracky, we're going to do it. All right, now is the VAT tax imminent? Now that depends. Obama's spending is clearly out of control. We know that. Federal Chairman Vin Bernanke warned Congress that the deficit is the biggest threat to long-term economic growth and stability. I guarantee you, and on the weeks ahead, we're going to be hearing from Obama about the need to get the deficit he created under control. There's only two ways to get the deficit under control. Only two ways. Cut spending or increase taxes. Now, we know that Volcker and Pelosi are clearly on the side of raising taxes, and Obama, who has already added $2 trillion to the national debt, and that doesn't even include Obamacare, is clearly unable to restrain himself when it comes to spending. So all the rhetoric we're going to hear about fiscal discipline in the days ahead will be laying the groundwork for the massive tax hikes down the road. Now, they're not going to let up until they get into our pockets and get to our pockets deep.